Hey everybody, Dr. Dan here, and I want to talk to you briefly about Module 1. So, in Module 1, we have to read Chapter 1, of course, and then there's a discussion board activity, and there's another assignment where you have to read a primary source, Hammurabi Code, and discern some things about society at the time. So, pretty straightforward. I want to take a minute and talk to you about Chapter 1. So, since this is Western civilization, then it's important that we know what civilization is. So, one of the things that the author does in Chapter 1 is tries to define what civilization is. So, he talks about some characteristics of civilization, such as writing, religion, organized governments, laws, perhaps boundary lines, trade, specializations. So all of those things, those organized things, I would say especially writing, religion, and organized government are things that are characteristic of civilizations, as opposed to people who are hunter-gatherers, who aren't settled, maybe don't have a common language, don't have any kind of government structure. So that's how Perry, who's the author of this book, defines civilization. So make sure you know what that is. Also, one of the things that's kind of cool in the book is what has to happen before there can be permanent settlements. And I grew up on a dairy farm. I know many of you out there are farmers, or you come from relatives who are farmers. So understand that agriculture is primary. In other words, we have to be able to feed people in order for them to settle and to specialize in work. Otherwise, everybody's a farmer. So agriculture is a big thing. And I think that, when you think about society today, you ask someone what the necessities of society are, and they're going to say like electricity, cell phones, transportation. But the number one necessity that is over everything is food. And so agriculture had to occur first, an agricultural revolution where farmers would grow surplus food that they could sell, and then people that live in communities or in settlements could stay alive because they would have food. So that's really important to know that organized agriculture, as opposed to hunter-gatherers, had to come first for civilization. He's going to talk briefly about Egyptian culture. There's some cool stuff in there, like if you're a nursing major, the Egyptians knew that cleanliness was important to health. I think that's on like page 13 or 14, so that's something you can kind of relate forward, although that was long before germ theory, but already they're making that connection between like sanitation or cleanliness and health, so that's kind of cool. We're going to read about the Persians. One of the cool things in Chapter 1 is how Persians established a monarchy and attributed this monarchy as something that was approved of by God. So they justified their government, or they justified their monarchy, or justified their king as something that God approved of. And that idea of religion and government together, again, making connections all the way forward to today, to our culture, for example. We don't directly tie our government in with any one religion, but we do say in God we trust on all of our money. So there's these religious overtones, this idea that our system of government is approved of or blessed by God somehow, and that all goes back to the Persians and the original Persian monarchy. So that is in Chapter 1 as well. You'll read a little bit about the first level of science, or the first level of scientific thought, which, again, that early, so we're talking, Persians, or actually Egyptians, that early on, this idea that observation and recording data was important. It wasn't pure empirical research, but it certainly was the foundations for empirical research and the modern scientific method. So again, just trying to make these connections between the past and the present. There is some stuff about religion and how modern religions start to form, although not so much in Chapter 1. But Chapter 1 does talk about myth making and how religion is steeped in myth, more so than moving forward when we get to Hebrew culture, certainly in chapter 2. So, this idea that there's a difference between myth making and the scientific mind is really important. And like anything else, when we can't, as humans, when we can't describe something or we can't explain something in a rational way, we often make up myths to help explain why something happens, and certainly that's prevalent in these early cultures that you're going to read about in chapter 1. So, read those first, I think it goes to page 21 or something like that. Read the first chapter, take some notes out of it, and take a look at my notes. So there's Dr. Dan's reading notes, right? So you can go ahead and print them off and make some notes, because when we have a quiz or an assignment, oftentimes I look at my notes and that's what I write the quiz from. So again, not a bad chapter, not that long. It'll take you probably about an hour to go through this and take notes. And if you need to get in touch with me again, my cell, 419-345-7220, and my email. It's on the website, so you can email me anytime. Hope you enjoy the chapter. Have a safe week. I'll see you again next week. Thanks. Take care.